I think I've written all the functions that I need to write for this contract. So now I'm going to pivot and put some attention to writing the front end of my application. I haven't gotten into the front end that I want to build. My front end is going to be somewhat similar to the Kickstarter in regards to having support for multiple campaigns like you see here. In Kickstarter right now, you'll see that there are currently close to 4,000 campaigns, and yet I've been writing code to model one individual project or one single campaign. So it seems to me I need to put some thought into how to take this single campaign or smart contract and replicate it up to at least 40,000 times inside the application that I'm going to make. So what approaches and methodologies do I need to use to handle deploying the smart contract multiple times? Well, here's a diagram to serve as a reminder that whenever we deploy a contract, we're deploying an instance of it to the R.I.S.E blockchain, and for every single contract, we get back one unique address. Keep in mind that each of these addresses are divorced and separate from each other. There is no connection between them whatsoever. So that means that after deploying each of these contracts, I need to write down the address, I need to record it, and then anytime I want to show people information about these contracts, I need to retrieve information from each of these respective addresses. That seems like a lot of work, very manual and not very efficient. Well, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that we can approach this problem. Here's a mock-up of what my application will eventually look like. Whenever a user comes to my product, I want them to see a listing of all the different campaigns. Each campaign will come from a very different address. So the deployment process, the process of creating a new instance of the contract, is something that we want to have a good understanding of. So what is going to happen and how am I going to deploy these new campaigns? Every time we do a campaign, we have to record the resulting address. Otherwise, how are we going to get the information on the screen? We have to have the address to show details about all of our campaigns inside of our product. Again, it all comes down to how I deploy the contract to the functionality of the Create Campaign button. There are three possible paths to take to handle a user clicking on the Create Campaign button. Let's imagine a user clicks on the Create Campaign button and we want to deploy a new instance of the contract and get that address to show that new campaign on the screen to other users. So that is solution one, okay? And we can say the user clicks Create Campaign button, takes the contract source code, and we send it down to the user's browser, and we can use Web3 and MetaMask to deploy a new instance of the contract. Once deployed, we get back an address to our server. We take that address and we publish it publicly on our site as a new campaign. When I get the address for campaign C, we want to then add it to the listing of all the different campaigns that we're managing on our platforms. Again, solution number one, but there's a big security hole in this solution. Imagine a malicious and clever user. When he clicks or he or she clicks on Create Campaign, we send the user the contract source code, but right before deploying the contract, the user modifies the source code by removing the entire request system. So anytime someone sends money to campaign C, it gets funneled back to the malicious user. When we deploy a contract with the source code, they could make changes to the contract and deploy it and send me the resulting address, and it would be hard for me to figure out if the user did something malicious to the contract. If half of our campaigns get compromised like that, no one's going to use it. So we don't want to allow our users to get a hold of our contract source code. All right then, what about solution number two? With the first solution, the user handling the deployment was a big security hole. In solution number two, the account or server will be used to deploy a new campaign, and we immediately take that address and confidently display it inside the application. So what's the issue here? Any single time we deploy a contract, it costs some amount of money. They are not free. Deploying smart contracts costs money. We do get dramatically increased security, but we're going to pay for it severely. If a user deploys this contract 500 times, am I going to get billed for 500 creations of the contract? I don't want the burden of paying for the deployment myself. So I need some hybrid approach between solution 1 and solution 2. And I'll talk about that in a subsequent video. See you then.